In the opulent halls of Chike Anderson's Grand Lagos mansion, a darkness festered, unseen by the young, admired billionaire. His fiancée, the beautiful Clarissa Benson, was a queen in his eyes, but a tyrant to the staff who served them. She ruled with a sharp tongue and a raised hand, her cruelty a daily storm the staff weathered for their paychecks. They kept silent, their dignity traded for survival, but that was about to change. Emeka Nuwasu, a new maid, had only been there for 3 days. Quiet and observant, she carried herself with a strength that belied her station. She saw the fear in the other staff members' eyes and felt the sting of Clarissa's insults as if they were her own. She refused to bow to it. The breaking point arrived like a clap of thunder on a clear day. Clarissa, in a fury over a misplaced diamond bracelet, cornered Amaka in the main hall. The accusations flew, each word a venomous dart. "You useless girl, where is it? Did you steal it?" Clarissa's face contorted with rage. She raised her hand, the movement all too familiar to the staff who watched from the shadows, their bodies tensing for the inevitable slap. But this time, the unthinkable happened. Amaka's hand shot up, a blur of motion, and caught Clarissa's wrist in a grip as firm as steel. Silence. The entire mansion seemed to hold its breath. The ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner sounded like a war drum. Clarissa's eyes widened, first in disbelief, then in pure shock. She yanked her arm, but Amaka's grip was unyielding. A strangled scream escaped Clarissa's lips, a sound of fury and frustration. At that exact moment, Chike Anderson walked back in from his afternoon stroll. He stopped dead in his tracks, the scene before him a cold, hard slap of reality. He saw his fiancée, her face a mask of rage, her arm caught midair, and he saw the quiet maid, her expression not of anger, but of resolute defiance. His heart hammered against his ribs. The whispers he'd dismissed, the fleeting looks of fear he'd ignored it, all crashed down on him. This was the true nature of the woman he was about to marry. Just as the tense silence was about to shatter, a new voice cut through the air. "So this is how you treat people." Mama T, a wise, older woman, whom even Clarissa respected, stood at the doorway. Her presence was a judgment, her words a confirmation of Chike's dawning horror. Chike's gaze, once soft with love for Clarissa, now hardened into something cold and sharp. He stepped forward, his voice low but carrying the weight of command. "No one in this house is just anything," he said, his eyes scanning the faces of his staff. "Everyone here deserves respect." Clarissa began to stammer, trying to form an excuse, but was cut off by the frantic arrival of her father, Chief Benson. He rushed in, his face pale with panic. "Clarissa, no, not again," he pleaded, his eyes wide with a terror that went far beyond the current scene. Ignoring his daughter's desperate attempts to silence him, the words tumbled out. A confession of a secret kept buried for years. Chief Benson revealed a story of another maid. Years ago, a young girl Clarissa had bullied relentlessly. It had ended in a physical attack over another false accusation. The girl, fragile and terrified, had collapsed, and she had died. A police case was opened, but the Benson family's influence had kept it quiet, unresolved. Chike was stunned into silence. The air knocked from his lungs. "You hid this from me? A woman died because of you?" he asked, his voice a hoarse whisper. The woman he loved, the woman he had planned a future with, was responsible for someone's death. As if the revelation wasn't horrifying enough, Chief Benson delivered the final, chilling blow. "Her brother ... he's in Lagos," he stammered. "He's been looking for justice. His name is Samuel Okoro." The name hung in the air, a promise of a reckoning that was long overdue. As if summoned by the very mention of his name, a loud, thunderous knock rattled the main gate. It was a knock that demanded entry, a knock that promised no escape. Samuel Okoro had arrived. Chike, his heart a tangled mess of betrayal and grief, made a decision. He looked at Clarissa, her face now a canvas of pure terror. "You will face this," he said, his voice void of all warmth. He turned to the security guard. "Let him in." The heavy doors opened, and Samuel Okoro entered. He wasn't a large man, but the pain and righteous anger he carried made him seem immense. His eyes, burning with years of unresolved grief, locked onto Clarissa. "You," he said, his voice shaking with emotion, "you took my sister from me. You have to answer for what you did." Clarissa trembled, shrinking away. Chike moved towards her, perhaps out of some lingering instinct to protect, or maybe just to ensure she didn't flee. As he reached for her arm, a small phone slipped from her pocket, clattering onto the marble floor. The screen lit up, displaying a series of messages from a contact saved only a secret number. Curiosity overriding his shock, Chike picked it up. His eyes widened as he read the messages. It was a conspiracy, a detailed plan for Clarissa to seize all his assets after their marriage. The final piece of the puzzle was even more sinister, a plan to blackmail him if he ever tried to leave, using a secret recording of his late mother's most private medical history. It was a betrayal so profound, so complete, it defied comprehension. Without a word, Chike pressed play on the attached audio file. Clarissa's voice filled the silent hall, crisp and clear, confirming every detail of the plot to her co-conspirator. She spoke of his wealth as if it were already hers, of his love as a weakness to be exploited. She laughed as she described how she would destroy him, his reputation, and his family's legacy. The recording ended, and the silence that followed was heavier than a tombstone. Tears streamed down Shaik's face. They weren't tears of rage, but of a deep, bottomless sorrow. The love he thought was real had been a lie. The future he had dreamed of was a phantom. He knelt before Clarissa, not in supplication, but in a final act of closure. "Love doesn't destroy," he whispered, his voice cracking. "Love doesn't lie. The wedding is cancelled." He stood up and looked at Samuel Okoro, then back at the trembling woman, who had almost ruined him. "She is yours," he said to Samuel, his voice regaining its strength. He gave his blessing for Samuel to escort Clarissa to the authorities, to finally face the legal consequences of her past actions. After the storm passed, after the police had come and gone, a quiet stillness settled over the mansion. Chaika's eyes found Amika, the quiet maid who was calmly returning to her duties, as if she had just dismantled a dynasty of deceit. Her single, brave act of defiance had been the thread that, when pulled, unraveled everything. He walked over to her. "Amaka," he said, his voice filled with a gratitude that words could barely express. "You saved this household today. You saved me." Amaka looked up from her work and offered a small, soft smile. "Sir," she replied simply, "I only did what was right."